Adam McGinnis. Welcome to our debut video show to talk about some Washington Wizards. We're going to try to do this on a weekly basis, so bear with us as we work out the kinks. Right now we're doing a tape show. Eventually we're going to try to segue into some type of live one with some interaction. But let me introduce the co-host, Mr. Kyle I Die, You Die, We Die. What is up, my man Kyle?
Exactly. What's happening, Adam? It's a Monday night in the district with a great NFL game going on that I'm not even watching right now because I'm watching the Spurs. The Nuggets and the Jazz, which just started. Not that great of a game. JaVale McGee's not playing, so when he plays, what can you expect?
How was your weekend, Kyle? Anything fun?
Not bad. The Wizards, they got off to a nice win on Friday night. We had a little truth about it get together afterward at the Iron Horse. But the Wizards winning on Friday was nice. Of course, my Mississippi State Bulldogs got trounced by Texas A&M on Saturday. Kind of kept it respectable. Only lost by 10. Johnny Football is a big baby anyway. And then Sunday was a tough game. That was certainly a heartbreaking loss, but you can't really – it wasn't one of those losses where you're, like, frustrated afterward and you're just kind of so angry, upset. You could see some positive things happening. So, it could have been worse, as Flip Saunders would say.
Well, let's get into that. So what we want to do is we're going to go through this last week's games and then touch on some other topics swirling around the Wizards. Let's go back to – this is the second week. It was kind of funny if you go back to where we were a week after Miami lost, where the Wizards were 0-3. National media, I like to call them the national media buzzards, just swirling. They care so much about the employment of Randy Whitman here as the Washington Wizards head basketball coach. Bill Simmons podcast, Jalen Rose, Yahoo Sports, Tom Ziller, go down the list. They wanted to fire Randy Whitman already. So it was almost – here we are now. They go 2-1, so now they sit at 2-4. It's kind of almost a whole reversal of the week. What are your thoughts of how this team is from week 1 to week 2?
Well, it's to be expected. First of all, there's a lot of highs and lows, and I don't know if the national media was necessarily wanting Whitman to be fired, but there's always this game of who will be the first coach fired, and I got this right, and someone else didn't get it right, and no one even goes back and keeps track necessarily, except maybe Deadspin every once in a while. But it was you could see the Wizards turn something on in the Miami game, even though the Heat just outclassed them in most aspects. Miami's another, they're another story. They're kind of losing to the Celtics at home, and they're having their own troubles. I think they're kind of old on the bench. But you could see positive stuff out of the Wizards for that game. To go up to Philly, on Wednesday, it was a must-win, and I think it's, we don't want to overstate that in the fourth game of the season, but it was definitely a must-win after you lose three straight. So that was nice, but it's also nice to see them take care of an aging Brooklyn team who, when they played the Nets in the preseason, Brooklyn moved the ball well. They looked like a veteran team that's together, and they sort of looked like that against the Wizards to start the game because they came out hitting first. But the problem is Brooklyn, they just weren't hitting the open shots, and I think that ultimately came back to bite them. Plus, Nene and his happy feet and tip-ins and Kevin Garnett just being old, that helped out too. So, it was encouraging to see the Wizards able to turn around and kind of look like the team we expected. They're not even there. It might take them a while to get there, but not all is lost. Let's not fire the coach already. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think you're right. The national media game, and the other thing that Whitman falls victim of is there's 12 new coaches this season. So some of the coaches that you would get up there, there's just a lack of candidates to basically play this blame game on. But poor Ty Corbin, I think he's the next one that, if they don't win a game soon, I believe they're 0-7.
Yeah, the Jazz have not won yet, and they're nearing the end of the first quarter. They have a 8-point lead over the Nuggets, so and they're at home, so we'll see if they crack that ice tonight.
But I think you were, set aside my snarky comments about the national media. This team needed a win. From the last two seasons, the disastrous starts that they had from, the 3-15, Flip Saunders getting fired last year, 4-28, the year
Right.
before not winning a road game till March. They needed a win in Philly, coming off of losing to Philly at home, the collapsing in the second half. I think the most crucial thing about that Philly was getting off to a good start. But we'll go into those games. Let's go to last night's game. You touched on it. An admirable defeat. It's kind of funny to say that the Wizards blew a game in Oklahoma City to a title contender with two of the best players in the world, and they blew it. I mean, they should have won the game. And I, the man, Mr. Ted Leonsis, wrote today he hates moral victories discussion. I wrote that last night. This isn't about a moral victory, but it is about a team playing at an elite level and kind of meshing together. And I think you saw that last night. What were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I mean, the free throw issue is one that you could kind of see it's looming for this team. They've been kind of poor in free throws the past couple years. Nene misses more than he should for the touch he has. Bradley Beal misses more than he should. If the one reliable free throw shooter has always been John Wall, even though he couldn't, his outside shot is still developing. But that's something a young team will have to learn how to do. What you did like seeing is you like to see Beal answering big shots. You like to see the Wizards kind of hanging tough in the end, getting the big rebound, making the right kind of passing decision, which you saw so many times by Nene especially. Him passing really makes it's contagious. I mean, it sounds cliche, and even saying the word sounds cliche, but with Nene on the floor, their ability to pass, even Nene to Gortat or Nene kicking it to the corner to shooters, it just opens up a lot of stuff. And so obviously it really hurt the Wizards when he was ejected, getting into stuff with Russell Westbrook like he'd been getting into the whole game. And I think, I can't remember who wrote it. Maybe you made this point in our DC councils that Westbrook, the Wizards were hurt more by losing Nene than the Thunder were by losing Westbrook, because you still have a guy who can score like Durant. But with the Wizards, yeah, sometimes if they execute perfectly, they can be nice in the half court, and maybe Wall or Beal can do something. But their butter comes when they have that second option, being able to kick it into Nene and get the defense looking, moving at different angles. So it was a tough loss, but I think we'll see how they do these next two games. I mean, it's not going to be easy by any means in Dallas and San Antonio, but if they play the way they've been playing, they can certainly do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think going back to the free throw issue, Trevor Ariza was 0 for 5 from the free throw line. Nene was 4 of 10. They missed 13 free throws as a team. Those two combined for 11 misses of the 13. I think Gortat had the other two. Gortat had a huge one down the stretch. But I think you're correct that Nene it is encouraging to see his presence from the end of the Nets game carry over immediately to the beginning of the Thunder game. The team struggled. Both teams actually struggled big time in the first half. Picked it up in the second half. Both teams were scoring, going back and forth. But if we're going to talk about this game, we got to talk about Mr. Bradley Beal, career high, 34 points. You saw it. You saw it against the Nets. We saw him struggle against the Pistons. Saw him struggle mightily versus the Sixers. Kind of cost the Wizards the game against the Sixers. I crushed him. Made fun of him. Needs to stop acting like a brat and pouting. Since that game, I mean, he has come out firing, and he has been really instrumental. He had a good game in Miami. Awesome game against, basically 3 straight awesome games. And I think your point is it's not so much that he's scoring points, it's how he's scoring them. It's pretty impressive for a kid 20 years old in the NBA.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think we all know how impressed we are for him just being the age he is. But you know what he's benefited from? He's benefited from having Gortat and Nene healthy. I mean, those guys weren't necessarily around in the preseason, and Beal got, we saw a little bit different Beal. We saw him play well in the preseason, and then he struggled to start the season. But I think he had to get used to playing with a big guy like Gortat, with a guy like Nene, who those guys can get him a lot of assists. You saw in Oklahoma City, there's one instance where he and Gortat had this little 2-man game on the wing, and the Thunder went under the screen, and Bill got the handoff from Gortat, and he just hit that smooth shot of his. And Gortat, when you have a big guy able to set a screen and do nice handoffs on the perimeter like that, Bill is able to find more space or get the spots that he needs to get to, as opposed to just kind of playing, Ariza or Webster or someone setting that pick. So I think the big guys on the Wizards have really opened up stuff for Beal and kind of allowed him to see the floor a little bit more than he was earlier in the season.
Yeah, and I think also having Ariza and Webster come in and kind of defend some of the players and take some of the pressure off Beal on that end, where Beal doesn't have to exude so much energy trying to guard some of the better wing players in the NBA. What do you think of his shot? His game winning. I mean, if you go back, the Wizards did go collapse, but they did have two chances to win this game. One in regulation, obviously the one in John Wall that we'll get to, but the Beal one at the end of regulation. What do you think of that look?
You got to like that look because I figure Wall is the type he might settle for trying to shoot some fadeaway jumper off a crossover dribble that only moves him laterally. Beal actually got to the rim, got like a floater going toward the basket. Maybe they could have gotten a rebound or tip put back because when he's shooting it up soft, the rebound usually is going to come off soft too. So I can't fault the look at all. I mean, he just came up a little bit short, and he'll learn again. Like we talk about his age, he'll learn to hit those big shots and kind of be cold-blooded like he was down the stretch against the Thunder.
You know what I thought immediately, and I forgot to write about it, is here's Bradley Beal, second year in the NBA. If that shot falls, 2 straight years that you would have a game winner versus Oklahoma City Thunder, and arguably was one of the highlights of the Wizards seasons last year. I've seen it now a million times on replay, even though I actually was there and made multiple videos on the shot. It's just kind of funny that shot goes down. That's what we're talking about today. How Bradley Beal has 2 game-winning shots.
Definitely.
It's kind of funny, and I think also before we get to John Wall. What do you think of Whitman's decision to sit him? I know Rashad was very critical on Twitter about that. And at the time, it was kind of weird because the Wizards did okay with him on the bench. He obviously needed to rest. If you're unaware, he got subbed out about 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. He had played the whole game, the whole second half up to then, and then it started falling apart. Whitman didn't really put him back in until about 2 minutes left, and then he hit 2 huge shots after that. What were your thoughts on that? Do you think that was a good call? It's a tough one, I think, to really be.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you want in that situation if Bill needs a rest, he needs a rest because we don't always know. Remember in the Philly game, the home opener, John Wall came out in the first quarter, like 8 minutes into the first quarter, and he's hot, and everyone's like going crazy on Twitter, like, oh, why is John Wall coming out? Why is Whitman taking him out? Lo and behold, we asked John Wall after the game, and he's like, oh, well, I asked out because I guess he was dealing with, he said he wasn't dealing with back issues till the third quarter of that Philadelphia game, but he needed to come out. He asked out. Whitman let him out. So you can't judge every situation. That said, it was curious that Bill wasn't around, that they were struggling, and it's like, all right, especially after Nene got ejected, like, all right, this is our chance. You have to put Beal in to kind of change things up on the Thunder a lot. So that was the curious part about it. I mean, he did come back in. He hit some big shots, and what if he came back in earlier? Does he hit those shots? Who knows? It's all like hypothetical. But you would like to see the Wizards be able to do some things without having to rely on their 20-year-old NBA sophomore down the stretch. Those other guys are talented enough to try to score and run the offense too.
Yeah, and I think what actually ended up happening is there was 2 possessions. After the Nene got tossed, John got called for a palming turnover,
right,
and then he threw up a bad hero ball shot, and then Beal came back in. So there's 2 possessions where potentially you get a 3-ball or a shot the way Beal was shooting it, heat checking. Maybe the game changed. I think it's kind of hard because that unit was actually playing decent out there at the time.
Yeah.
And then it just all went to shit. What did you think of the Westbrook Nene extracurriculars? For those unaware, early in I believe it was the second quarter, Nene blocked Westbrook's shot. He went into his face, talked some Portuguese shit to him. Westbrook, being the diva that he is, he did not like that. There was kind of some pushing. Nene, smiled, and then in the second half, actually fourth quarter, 4 minutes left, I believe it was Harrington and Westbrook got tangled.
Right.
On first look, and Phil Chenier looked at me, I felt that Westbrook, that the Nene shove was really more of him trying to hold up Harrington more so than to shove Westbrook. On further review, it looks like Nene had a little bit more into it. Westbrook then retaliates, pushes. I guess you can probably show it if you could screen share it.
Yeah, I'm trying to
Here we go.
screen share right now if you can see it. Yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
Nene definitely pushed them, and you can't blame the referees for their decision because both of those players should have known, like, hey, I had a tech earlier in the game, so Westbrook's a
Yeah.
hothead. He could have just kind of fallen down, and maybe they just call like a foul or something on Nene, and maybe both of the players stay in, but because of Westbrook, he's like, he has to get up and be the hothead that he is. It escalates it, and the refs have to punish both of them. So, I mean, it happens. I can't blame the call for what it was. Just got to be smarter than that.
Yeah, to me, I think Nene was more trying to get Westbrook out of the way so he could pick Harrington up than more of an egregious toss. And then Westbrook basically lost his footing because he was standing on him. And then he reacted the way he did. I don't know if an ejection was warranted, but man, Russell Westbrook, that guy's a head case. Not that that's not a news flash, but the Wizards don't get to really face him very often.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the end. So there's let's go back to Trevor Ariza, actually. So at the end of I believe it's a tie game. No, 1-point game. Wizards are up, and Ariza has the ball, and for some reason he does some type of pump fake where then Durant gets it, leads to a fast break, leads to Durant scoring. This
Yeah,
is
I'm gonna try to screenshot that one too. I
yeah.
mean,
Here it is right here.
like you just wonder sometimes, like, what is
What's he
Trevor
thinking?
Ariza thinking? Like, he does some good things. He's obviously like a smart player positioning wise on defense, and he's quick enough to jump the passing lanes. But sometimes he just like forces stuff up. Like, you're throwing like a pump fake. You're already off balance, and Durant's probably about 4 to 5 inches taller than you. You really think like
I
you
mean,
really think you're going to get away. I mean, I was surprised that he caught up with Durant to foul him, and Durant actually didn't end up making the basket.
yeah, I thought for sure it was the stupid and one foul was going to happen. But you're
Yeah.
right. Like, I mean, Durant is the longest perimeter type of player in the NBA, and you're doing some weak ass head fake on him and like thinking it's going to work. Uh, After that, I believe then the Wizards get the ball and have they draw up a play for John Wall. For those that haven't seen it, it's a hell of a play, actually. I didn't really give Whitman enough credit for how well designed it was. Basically, Wall is the inbounder. They throw it to the high pass to Gortat. He makes a sharp cut to the hoop. Gortat's man is slow to react. Wall gets the handoff. Now, Jeremy Lamb totally goes 2 hands down on John Wall. It's really hard to see from the angle how much. I mean, I almost like a camera behind it to see if you really got to it. Now, John Wall complains afterwards. John Wall then misses the layup, point blank range. I don't know why he didn't use the backboard on that play. He looked like he had the angle. And actually, I was looking at it last night, and Ariza's man actually helps off of him and goes to him. And if Ariza's in the corner for 3, they don't need a 3. And if Ariza just maybe cuts to the hoop a little bit, he might have a shot at with like second to left to win it. I don't know if John Wall makes that pass, but I don't know if
Yeah, that was a tough one because I saw Ariza there too. He was open. I don't know if they had enough time by the time Wall shot it. But the interesting is, like, Wall, he's a right-handed player, but he often likes to go and finish with his left hand. And so that night, the play was drawn up. He's going from the left side almost, I think maybe just the timing of where he was on the floor. He had to go for that reverse layup on the right-handed side. But that's, obviously not the side he finishes on as
Mm-hmm.
often. So that's another, part of it. But you just got to make the shot. It comes down to maybe you got fouled, maybe you didn't. But, guys who win, they find a way to make the shot. They concentrate on the basket, and they win the game. Wall didn't do it. Hopefully he'll get another chance. But, the better team won, obviously.
Yeah, I agree with that. Hell of an effort. Let's go back to Friday night. I was there, the Nets. Let me just tell you, the Brooklyn Nets, it's just bizarre and weird to see Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce in Brooklyn gear. It's weird. That whole team, the way it's constructed, is just bizarre. I don't know how long it's gonna take me to get used to it. It was just weird seeing the locker room. There's just, your normal NBA team, and you've been there. especially on the road teams come in and you're looking down the roster like, who's this guy? Like, you don't recognize some of these guys like on the roster. I mean, I literally knew every single person. There's like Jason Terry hanging out over there. Colorico's hanging out over there. Reggie Evans is like, Reggie Evans watching movies on his iPad. Jason Terry's playing the candy game on his iPhone. Deron Williams is being a jerk. I'll go into that at a later date. And here I am in the locker room before the game trying to interview Andre Bloch. He kind of blew me off. He actually was getting advice on the laptop for defensive schemes, which I think a lot of Wizards fans would get chuckles out of that. But it's just a weird team. I mean, Jason Kidd's the coach. He comes in sweatpants. The last time I saw Jason Kidd, he was playing in the same locker room. I'm asking about John Wall. He's out there. Joe Johnson, Brick Lopez. I mean, what are your thoughts of just Brooklyn in general before we get into this game? I mean, I think they're all 5 starters make over $10 million, which I think is the first time in the history of the NBA.
Well, it's certainly going to be fun, I think, to see them in the playoffs at some point. I mean, because again, they're a veteran team. You might see them. Either you're watching them against someone else. I don't know. Maybe even the Wizards end up playing them if that's in some weird world. But what they're doing right now does not look good. They're 2-4. After they lost to the Wizards on Friday, they went and they lost a 5-point close game to the Pacers on Saturday, and they're just looking very old in the the early going of the season. And I know they're trying to rest certain guys, but it doesn't seem to be working out. And again, you just expect this veteran team to have a little bit more chemistry, and they've passed the ball well, they moved the ball well, but they're not hitting shots. So at what point does at what point does Prokhorov get frustrated? I mean, can you see, is it possible that Jason Kidd gets fired this season? I mean, it doesn't seem possible in any way, but, crazier things have happened. So you just have to wonder, like, what if this team really just doesn't look good? I mean, Joe Johnson and Brook Lopez and Deron Williams haven't exactly been, like, world beaters or look like all-stars the past couple of years. Well, maybe Lopez has, obviously, but, I mean, they all have a little something left in the tank, but I'm not sure a single one of those players has enough left in the tank to take that team somewhere. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, it was really bizarre. I mean, let's go down the list. I mean, the game was a 112 to 108. The Wizards actually won in overtime. They overcame. They were down, I believe, 12 with like 4 minutes left, and made a hell of a run. Nene, let's talk about Nene again. He took over. He had two and ones. One he should have had an and one on. He didn't. It was a continuation that he kind of got screwed over. That's when he did his little jig dance, which I don't know if you have the video of that. That'd be great to see. And he was just unstoppable. I mean, he was faking, and it was kind of good to see that Brook Lopez really got the best of him and Gortat in the first half. Lopez had 18 points in the first half, and then finished with 23 in second half and overtime. They really buckled down. You really started seeing. It was almost like that run when Gortat got reinserted into the game at the end. You really saw the chemistry of Nene and Gortat. I think what the front office envisioned, which I mean, they traded for. I mean, that's the other thing too. People, not to say that Gortat had played bad. Nene was out, but here you have Gortat coming in. He had no training camp with the team, nothing at all. Nene was hurt immediately. Limited practice time between these games. And so, I mean, there's going to be some type of, time where it's going to take them to struggle and develop. And I think that, again, that in that game you did saw here. So, here, this is Nene.
The Nene happy feet. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I don't think, again, in this kind of short attention span social media world, we don't have a lot of patience for stuff, but people have to realize there is an adjustment period. And you really have to give Gortat a lot of credit because he was expecting to get traded at some point, and I think soon after he got traded to the Wizards, he tweeted out at least it wasn't during the season. So this is a guy, he's playing for a team that's presumed to be tanking. He obviously kept himself in shape. He obviously kept himself ready to play. Now, granted, he also played in Eurobasket this summer, and speaking of, Jan Vesely's Czech Republic team beat Poland in one of their 2 wins in Eurobasket. But you have to give Gortat a lot of credit for coming in pretty ready for the situation he was thrown into. So, and you can see that he's getting a little bit more quick on the rotations and kind of understanding where he needs to be on defense. So that's also encouraging.
Yeah, I think that, I read some bunch of stuff about his defense had slipped, and I just haven't seen that. I mean, I some of his stuff, and he even admitted, I believe after the Pistons game, that he missed some stuff. He didn't know where he was, but like you said, that should be expected for a guy entering the team the first time. But since then, I mean, I've really seen him protect the rim. It was really crucial in the Nets against the Nets. One of the big parts of the victory was them limiting the shots to one shot. Gortat was a huge factor in that.
Right.
Even last night, he had a couple really big buckets at the end of the game in overtime for the Wizards, and you saw a really smooth back to the hoop kind of spin move that I didn't know he had. I mean, I knew he had that mid-range jumper, but I hadn't really seen any really good post moves yet out of him. And the funniest thing, we'll get back to Nene and Gortat's bromance. That's one of our topics here later on. But I mean, the guys actually like each other, and I tweeted this out the other day. Is that here you have, I know that we've made a big deal about character, especially with what's happened around this team the last 3 or 4 years. Unfortunately, we know all about it. I don't want to rehash all those, but here, just Gortat and Nene already boys and liking each other compared to the way McGee and Blotch. I mean, just from a fan standpoint of like cheering for people, there. I mean, yeah, we complain about Nene's, but we never really complain that he doesn't play hard, that he's loafing, that he's not a good player, that he's half-assing it. It's always just about that he's day-to-day and injured, and he has these like diva quotes. But it's not just about compared to what we used to complain about, like McGee dribbling and Blotch
Right.
just being lazy. I mean, it's just a different type of. It's kind of a refreshing thing, and I think a lot of fans should be happy that this is what they have now to root for down low.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost what you would expect from professional athletes. Granted, a lot of them are just kind of kids and young and don't know better. But you saw that, when the Wizards drafted Seraphin and Booker and Chris Singleton, that was the first draft, leading up after Leonsis took over ownership. Those were more mature players that have been in college longer that kind of had a better head on their shoulders. So hopefully this franchise has learned a lot of tough lessons, in drafting guys like Nick Young and JaVale McGee and Andre Blatch, who just for whatever reason, if they don't mature sometimes as they're younger, it doesn't mean they'll never mature, but sometimes that's a sign is like, okay, well, maybe you want to, reassess what guys you might be willing to take a chance on. So, we'll see.
And to finish out this game, I mean, basically, Wall had a shot at the end, down to tie it. He misses it, and Nate tips it in 1 second. Jason Terry misses a 25-footer. Sends the game into overtime. Game kind of goes back and forth a little bit. Nene makes another sweet play down low, kind of piggybacking on what you said earlier. In control, doesn't hurry it, hits it to her, throws it to our guy Ariza, who had literally just taken a terrible three-pointer a minute or so ago, and comes back and ends up being the hero and drills it, and that pretty much a free throw game after that, and the Wizards win. I think that it was something that they needed a big win from. I know the Nets are not really that successful yet, but I don't think a week ago people would probably think the Nets would just blow them out, right?
Right.
On paper.
Yeah.
And so, okay, let's just a few notes that I have on the 76ers game. 18 threes by the Wizards that night. 39 points first quarter. I wrote about it as well. I think it was a very crucial aspect that they got off to a huge start. I mean, they had not gone out to good starts in any game. I guess they got it to a good start in Philadelphia, but they had not gotten a good start on both games on the road. Their confidence was definitely not that great. I think it was, if they get out to a bad start in Philadelphia, then it's like, woe is me, here it is, we already lost to them. You've seen how that thing has snowballed, and the crazier part about this too is that they hadn't won in Philadelphia since Gilbert Arenas' basically his last game that I remember as Gilbert Arenas before finger guns, which is kind of
that was the finger guns game.
Finger guns game, yes, yeah. I mean gun gate, but finger guns game. That he got suspended for the famous photo in the pregame huddle. But also that they had not won in Philadelphia in the John Wall era, which is another crucial. And Flip Saunders actually got fired after the Philadelphia game where it was like 60-30 at halftime, and and Andre Bloch and Nick Young were throwing up shots like they wanted him to get fired. It has not been a good place for the Wizards to play, and I know that Philly is supposed to be tanking, but Michael Carter-Williams looks like the best player in the whole draft already, and Evan Turner's looking like a legit player, and Thad Young's always been solid. Spencer Hawes can play. They're not as bad as people think, even though I think the GM wants to be worse. So I think it was a really good win by the Wizards. They jumped on them early. What are your impressions of that game?
Yeah, I mean, Philly's obviously better than people think. I think when they're coming to the season, they had all these people injured, and it's like they barely had a roster of like 9 players or so heading like more in a training camp, and they had to kind of pick up these random guys. But as the Wizards came to find out, like Thaddeus Young and Spencer Hawes, those are decent big men. They can both spread the floor, and Young is really kind of quick to drive it. So the Wizards kind of saw that in their first game, that loss at home that was so embarrassing. And you could see in that second matchup that they respected the floor game of both Hawes and Young a little bit more. Yeah, they let them get some of their points, but they one of those last final Young jumpers, he finally decided to contest it, and he missed in that game. So that was key for them actually respecting and going out and playing hard against the Sixers the second time and kind of waking up in that regard. But yeah, Philly's going to be a decent team. They lost to the Spurs tonight, so I'm not sure what that drops their record to.
500 maybe?
Yeah, they're 4-4 now. So I mean, we'll see. But I think the surprising thing is Evan Turner and how well he's playing. I mean, he's on my fantasy league, so I obviously know that he's like tearing it up pretty well. But it's weird, just even during the time when they came to town to visit the Wizards, how the comments about Evan Turner, he wasn't offered an extension or any sort of contract, and he's saying weird things about Hinkie not being a GM and not communicating with the front office, and it just seems like Philly wants to trade him. But at some point, you have to think like, if you're trying to rebuild and do some things pretty quickly, he might be a good guy to have around. But of course, they don't want to commit a lot of contract money to him. So you'll see. It'll be interesting to see what the market for Turner is, because he is playing pretty well.
Oh, I mean, he gave the Wizards some problems that game. I know they ended up overcoming it and won by double digits. But I've been really impressed by the way Evan Turner is. Like, he's not quick and he's not fast, but somehow he's figured out how to get off a shot, and especially in the mid-range game. And I think he had a really sweet spin move. I believe Phil Chenier really loved in that game as well. And Spencer Hawes is hitting threes, and Michael Carter-Williams actually, he didn't look that great in the summer league, I don't think, and a lot of people were down on him. I thought he couldn't shoot, and now that guy's getting at the rim and being able to knock down outside shots. It's kind of crazy to see that. And now Anthony Bennett's only made one shot, and my man Anthony Bennett's like hurt, and you're like, wow. So this guy already, Martin Carter-Williams, is there. But the other takeaway I had of that game is just like what kind of John Wall had 5 threes. And we mentioned it, and I believe he had 2 threes his whole second year in the NBA, which is kind of crazy to think.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just confidence now, and I think he realizes if he follows through correctly, he can hit that shot. I still don't think some of his mechanics, like where his feet are landing or where his shoulders are like ideal. I mean, obviously, I'm not a shooting coach, but it just seems like you've seen plenty of good shooters, and Wall doesn't look like he's got the mechanics in form of one of them. That said, there's been a lot of great shooters who have, odd mechanics or what have you, as long as you have confidence to hit them, which is good. You just hope that the Wizards, like Wall, and he's shown this, he's continued to pass and not look for a shot too much, but you hope he gets smarter with his decisions, like when he should shoot, when he should be passing, because, obviously, as we've seen the past couple of games, he is susceptible to making a late turnover that could change the course of the game. Like he made that late turnover against the Nets that Kevin Garnett just jumped in the passing lane. Mm-hmm. New Jersey's bench was screaming about it the whole time, and it's like Wall telegraphed the play, made a turnover. Against the Thunder, you saw a couple of mistakes that he made. So, it's still a learning process for him, but I think you want to see a little bit more growth in being like a game winner, a guy who puts your team on his shoulders and makes great decisions all the time, not just 85% of the game. Him now being in his 4th year in the league.
Yeah, the big difference that I've seen in his shot, the rookie year he hit a little bit more threes. And in the second year, obviously, he was terrible. Last year, he got hot late. Is that before it was kind of like it is a confidence thing, but it was just like this ugly set shot that he would just hitch and then wait and then go. Now he doesn't really. It's still slower than your normal guy, than probably what you would teach somebody. But it's a lot more smoother and it's a lot more fluid. I still don't have much confidence that it's going to go in when he shoots it. Still, I don't know. Maybe I'm just conditioned from all the bad ones, but I really think that his mid-range jumper, when he had one last night, when Beal is obviously kind of similar, different form, but when they go with that one dribble mid-range and he goes up without thinking in, and that I'm a lot more confident at. And you can almost see that he's a lot more confident with that shot as well, with his mechanics. And that's what I got from the Philly game. I think what a lot of people, what a lot of what we have said, a lot of writers that cover this team has been the second unit struggles.
Right.
I know, and that's something I wanted to touch on with you. What's the issue? I mean, I have my ideas of what I think is happening out there. It's not that the second team is like blowing these huge leads. There's nothing. Is that it just feels like they're just disasters looming. They kind of tread water. They're not really building. So it's either like it goes down or they kind of tread water, and there's no real, I don't know, it's kind of a crapshoot every time. It doesn't seem like there's a consistency. Now I know that it's still early in the season, but with kind of the short rotations that he's going with, you can't really blame it on different players playing with each other. I mean, it's pretty much the same consistent second unit. What are your thoughts on why this unit has been struggling so much?
I mean, basically because no one at all has stepped up. I mean, maybe you think about Al Harrington, of course, if you look at some of his advanced stats, like he's has like the second worst PER in the team. Seraphin just, he makes 3 bad decisions for every 1 good decision. Martell Webster's been hit or miss. I mean, his jump shot for the most part has been on, and he's been kind of disciplined, and he takes the shots that come to him. But he's also looked a little bit lost on defense and just a little bit unsure of himself sometimes in the offense. Like he hasn't shown any progress on his off the dribble game at all. And then you've got Eric Manor, who just hasn't been good, very good at all either. And yes, his PER looks high and his turnovers have been down, but he hasn't been able to really run the team and get it into his offense. And the team struggles so much when he's on the floor, it seems. Plus, he's a little guy. He's kind of a liability on defense. And in general, I just don't think the Wizards have anyone in that second unit who can create their own shot. They don't have, like, for instance, a Jamal Crawford coming off the bench, or even a Jordan Crawford, for all that matter, who's starting and with the Celtics, by the way. And on most teams, you'd expect that guy to be
What up, Steve? I miss you.
I know, right? But on most teams, you can expect that guy to be like the backup point guard. I mean, you think of some of the other backup points in the league, or even think of like an old guy like Andre Miller. Like, he may be a little too over the hill now, but when he's backing up Lawson in some of those good days, like he can play in the post, or he can figure out some crafty way to get inside and keep the defense moving. And we haven't seen Maynard be able to get inside or do anything on offense much except miss a floater. So, there's a debate over like Eric Maynard or AJ Price, and maybe you lean toward AJ Price right now, even though Price wasn't like the most ideal of ideal backup point guards. I think that's kind of the big source for the Wizards' struggles, that they don't have a guy who can really command the offense and get guys to the right spot right now. Maybe it'll take time. Maybe they just have to learn. Who knows? But they need to figure it out quick, because as you can't always rely on Nene to give a full minutes or play every game. So different guys really need to step up.
Yeah, I think you're correct. I think Maynard can maybe create his own shot, but I don't create that floater, right? He can obviously create a floater, but is that the best look we're looking for in the second unit, right? Him dribbling around for 15 seconds and then dribbling a floater, whereas he's going towards the hoop, he should go back on defense. You're not really getting anyone else involved, moving and cutting. I think someone asked me today if they're setting screens for Martell. I can't remember. I mean, all I really all I really remember in the second unit is that Al Harrington somehow ends up with the ball, either in the post or up top, or in the corner, and the ball's going up. Now, luckily, I think that's probably why his PR is so terrible because I don't think he really has done much, even though he had some crucial charges last night. But he took some crucial charges, but he's made some threes. I mean, he's shot a lot, shot a lot. He's actually 10 of 23 for 44% from three, and he's hit some big ones. He's gotten hot, so he's hit them in bunches too. So it's like he's hit two or three to kind of masquerade these struggles of the fact that they don't get a good look inside, they don't reverse the ball, they don't create and kick to get an open look. I think that's what I've really seen. In going back to Maynard, he only had his second turnover last night. I think that's why his efficiency numbers are high. But if you actually look at his play, and I think you kind of touched on it, like last night, just drove me freaking wild. It's like it was the third quarter, into the third quarter. He's dribbling around on the right side and just picks up his dribble and throws it to Al Harrington with like 3 seconds left on the shot clock. And I'm like, well, what do you? And then Al Harrington, then he kind of almost puts his teammates into bad positions because he's not, putting them in right positions, which doesn't really show up in the stat sheet because now the teammate then shoots the bad shot after he dribbles for 15 seconds.
Yeah, Maynard's got to understand, like, he's got to get in the lane earlier in the shot clock to get the defense moving, get in the paint, try to pass it out, maybe swing it around, find a good look. It's sometimes he seems to wait on that as a last resort, or I don't know if he's built, pick and roll chemistry with some of the other guys, but it's just an issue overall that we need to keep an eye on. And with Harrington, like, I think his PER, because PER it relies on rebounding a lot, or plays a big factor. And Harrington is like second worst on the team in rebounds per 36 minutes. Only Garrett Temple is worse than him, and Garrett Temple has played like 7 whole minutes. So Harrington is just not. He doesn't get boards, and that's fine when you're around the perimeter and you're that kind of outlet 3-point shooting guy. You're not going to get a lot of rebounds. So, I mean, that kind of comes with the territory, but I think he still can do a little bit more. Like, he has to do a little bit more to help the team when he's playing the 4th position because it's just going to be a vulnerable spot, the glass, when he's in the game.
And especially when it's not like Kevin Seraphin is playing like gangbusters to make up for Uncle Al chilling at the 3-point line all the time. Which, by the way, Uncle Al, he does have some, and the reason, I don't know if anyone knows why I call him Uncle Al, is that he calls Bradley Beal nephew.
Right.
And there was some social media stuff about Bradley Beal calling him Uncle Al and him calling Beal nephew. So that's why I called him Uncle Al. And, Cowboy Al, I think Wisnets wants him to be Cowboy Al. But, he just kind of like has that game that, I was like, the other day I was like, he gets in the game. I was like, all right, what's the shot clock on how soon he shoots it? And it was like minute 20. He shot a 3, and he made it actually, which is kind of funny. But I think that goes into my next topic that we want to discuss is, should we give some other players a shot? Because right now, and this goes into women's rotation, and right now currently we're on a 9-man rotation, and I think that's about right in the NBA. I think that's fine. I don't know if that's right for the beginning of the season per se. I think 9-man's a good rotation, but it's a short 9. I mean, we're talking like these guys aren't even getting, the 7th, 8th, and 9th guy. It's almost basically a 7-man rotation essentially.
Yeah,
with 2 subs.
I get it, but it's like, one, who else are you really going to play? The only guy I'm surprised who hasn't been playing is Trevor Booker. Otherwise, I think it's part of Whitman staying and trying to build confidence in some of his second unit players, so he's not necessarily giving Seraphin an early hook a lot of time. He's allowing Seraphin to play through some mistakes, and there are a lot of mistakes to play with. Or Whitman's not giving Maynard just an early hook and throwing Garrett Temple necessarily, because I don't know if Garrett Temple is better than Eric Maynard in the first place, even though Maynard's not playing well. I mean, what Temple provides is very limited. So I think it's just interesting to see that Whitman's rotation has shortened up to about 9 guys. He only will play 9 guys a game. But it's not surprising, and again, I can really only see him playing Trevor Booker, maybe over Seraphin some if Seraphin continues to play bad, maybe even Jan Vesely. But otherwise, I get what the coach is doing. He's just trying to get guys more time now because he knows he's going to have to rely on Seraphin and Maynard more as the season progresses. So you might as well get him some more playing time, in the early going. Whether that's the right decision, who knows?
Well, I mean, I get that argument, but what about the fact that it's not like the difference between Seraphin and Vesely is so vast, or Booker went 2 games ago. Booker was starting, and now he's getting coached. He doesn't play the last 2 games, even though I know he had a banged up thumb or finger, and now he's getting DNPs. Not to say that I think it's kind of hard too. Is that or Glenn Rice Jr. Why hasn't he got in the game to get some run in the second or third quarter of one of these units? Maybe hit a couple threes. We saw that he was able to do some things in preseason. I just don't know the alternative, especially when I see the second unit struggling. Why he's just continually going to the same type of thing and not trying other guys, spotting them up here and there. Not to say that, and I think it's really hard. This argument, it's not like I'm going like, oh my God, put in Vesely, put in Rice Jr. They're going to be the savior. That's not it. It's just that what's going on now isn't working, and it's not like the guys now are so much better talent-wise than the other ones that I think it's kind of a wash.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just have to give guys time. And if you look at the top, I was looking at some of the lineup stats from earlier. And if you look at the top 16 lineups, all lineups have played 5 minutes or more together. John Wall is in 13 out of those 16 lineups. And so the best one, I think the best one in looking at it is a lineup that features Maynard, Webster, Ariza, Harrington, and Seraphin, and that lineup is -1 overall in 16 minutes. And then you have a lineup with Maynard, Beal, Webster, Harrington, and Gortat, and that lineup has played just 8 minutes together, and they're +1 and overall. So not great at all, not bad. They're just kind of even. But if you look, yes, they've only played 8 minutes together. This is the best non-John Wall lineup. Only 8 minutes together on an entire season. So you have to think, again, I think Whitman's just trying to get these guys to kind of grow together and try to learn together a little bit more. Now, I'm sure the coach probably has some sort of game clock in his head about, like, look, if Kevin Seraphin keeps playing this poor after, game 9 or 10, let's give someone else a try. But I think that's what they're doing. They have this kind of window of games that they want to get a look at a certain amount of guys who have stood out so far. And then if that doesn't work out, they'll try plan B. But I don't think the coach is going to win anyone in the locker room by being very impatient once he gets a tight rotation. Because the other guys understand, their time is going to come. They just have to be ready.
That's true. Well, let me just go with the minutes. Right now, currently NBA, Beal is tied with Carmelo Anthony with 40.3 minutes per game for first in the NBA. John Wall is 6th at 38.34, and Trevor Ariza is 10th at 37.77. Now, someone mentioned to me today that that's probably somewhat impacted by the fact that they played 2 overtime games out of 6, so they have some extra minutes there that probably impacted this. But I just don't know if that's sustainable long term. I mean, I know Wall and Beal are young, but we also know some of the injuries that they've dealt with. And right out of the gate to play him, I'm actually okay with Ariza playing as much as he is because I think that he's good for trading and he always defends the best offender on the other team, and some people don't really understand that, how difficult that is. So I'm okay with him playing as much. I think it's a difficult spot because I think it's kind of affected Martell. That's been a thing that we have seen throughout the season. It's really affected Martell. Had a good thing going with Wall and Nene and Beal, and now we've kind of see, he's still shooting somewhat, even though he shot just 1 for 7 last night, but he hasn't had. Last night he played really poorly at the beginning, played a little better in the second half, had a terrible game versus the Nets, got 0 points. We haven't really seen the Martell that we saw at the end of last year that got him the big contract, and I think some of it has to do with some of these struggles on the second unit. But I think we've discussed Ariza would be a complete mess on the second unit. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree, and so because I think he's more susceptible to like pushing the issue when the second unit is struggling on offense than Webster would be. So, I get caught myself. I think Webster would benefit more if he was a starter, maybe the whole team would, but you have a reason now, and he's certainly an important part, especially on defense. So I think I'm fine with Whitman's decision to kind of continue to start Ariza. But let's go to a segue screen share right now. How do you
Is this hot
think
off the
this?
presses? Is this hot off the
Yeah, hot
presses?
off the Jan Vesely presses. I guess they're having a sushi in Dallas, Texas, and so you've got Otto Porter, Chris Singleton, Marcin Gortat, or Marcin Gortat, and Jan Vesely at the top.
Marchin.
I just wonder what
I do
is
like.
this conversation about right now? Like, what on earth do they talk about? I can't even. I don't even think they have cereal in common. You know, they're all on social media. They're on Instagram. That's about it.
Maybe they'll talk about Gortat got his car delivered from Phoenix the other day. He was really happy about that.
That's nice.
Porter, I don't know what they'd really talk about. Singleton's been really inspirational. Maybe Jan will talk about his new house. What do you think they ordered? What is that? What kind of appetizer is that? Looks
It
like some
looked like
leafy
they're at
thing.
a sushi place. But I've got another. I don't know if we can see this. This is sort of hot off the presses. It's this dunk of J.J. Hickson um, for the Nuggets tonight over Marvin Williams of the Jazz. And I think it's yeah.
Oh,
If you were saying it's
damn!
the first,
Holy shit!
yeah. You'll see that on SportsCenter a lot. We just wanted to
Holy! Is that
segue that.
two-handed, man?
Yeah.
That's
So
that was insane.
J.J. Hickson can get
I
off.
like that was brought to you by Miller High Life. That nice little interruption, or wherever we'll find out what sushi place they're at in Dallas.
Yeah.
You think they got some spicy tuna, or they go with some edamame? I didn't see any edamame down there. I think
I don't know. Let's just
any
hope
booze involved, maybe
let's just hope it
sake.
doesn't get them sick for the game tomorrow. So
But I want to go one more wonky basketball part before we get into the funny stuff. The offense right now, it's kind of funny. I was mentioned to Sean, a colleague at the game on Friday. It's kind of weird now without a Mecca. This team has turned into one of the. It's in the top 10 in offense and in the bottom 5 in defense ratings. And they're also just draining threes. I mean, they currently are the number one. They score 35.5 points per game on three-pointers. They're averaging almost 12 threes a game. Makes. These are made threes a game. They get 33% of their points from three-pointers. Last year, they scored 19.9 points a game from threes. So they're scoring 16 more points per game on three-pointers. Going down the list, Beal is shooting 48%, Wall is 36%, Ariza's 40%, Webster's 41%, Al Harrington's 44%, and Maynard is actually 57%. He's 4 for 7. So you have, 5 guys shooting 35% and more, 4 guys basically in 40% territory. I think that this is the identity of this team. I know some people will say, oh, live by the 3, die by the 3. And maybe that's okay, but I think these threes are coming within the flow of the offense. I don't think that they're shooting quick threes. I think that, Beal is, it's John Wall pushing, finding the guys in the corner. It's, down low in the cutters and coming across.
yeah.
Where do you see this offense going? Because I don't know if Whitman really wants to play this type of basketball, if you want to know the truth.
Oh no, it's totally by design. This team is designed to get a lot of threes because that's what Wall can do, and they need to run fast. I mean, if anything, Whitman's imploring those guys to run faster and faster and get in the offense earlier, get the ball moving, find the 3. I think the old live by the 3, die by the 3 is more of a college saying to me, and I mean, yes, this isn't like Paul Westfall's Phoenix Suns who are just coming down the court and jacking out the first open look they get. I mean, they are a little bit more strategic. They play with a guard mentality, and that guard is trying to get in the lane and move the ball around to get open shots. So I think, it's not a lot of one-on-one threes and stuff like that. So it's totally by design. The three-point shot, as we've come to find out, especially the corner 3, it's a very efficient shot. So I think the Wizards are good especially when they don't have a guy like Durant or Carmelo who can just go and manufacture 30, 35 points each night. They have to be a team that moves the ball around and relies on the three. And so, so far it's fallen for them, and that's kind of the idea. And now that they finally have shooters around John Wall, it's nice to see him going in.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, I think they've always wanted to get threes, but last year's success was based on defense, top 5 defense in the NBA. It was about a mecca. It's about funneling drivers. It was basically the only offensive success they really had was John Wall trying to in transition, and then maybe John Wall, if it breaks down, John Wall doing some things off the dribble. Bradley Beal was kind of banged up, and they'd run him on some screens. Whereas now it feels like their strength is maybe more up tempo and more secondary breaks, and not just a slogging defensive team, because I don't think Gortat brings that defensive level that Emeka did. There's a completely different team. So you're saying that you think that this is part by design? I think they've kind of just stumbled into some of this. Actually.
Well, they never wanted to be a slogging defensive team. Their idea the whole time was like, we're going to start our offense and transition offense with the quickest player with the ball with defense. So right now, yeah, it's disappointing that they haven't kind of gotten their schemes together and they don't have their rhythm. And part of that's a personnel issue. Part of it is the guards just need to kind of step up their game and stop getting beat off the dribble, and that's led to a lot of their defensive problems in the early going. But I still think their goal is to, yes, we want to be one of the top or one of the toughest defensive teams, and that's how we stop these teams. That's how we get out and run the offense and get out on the break, and then we find those trailing shooters, and either Wall scoring in transition or Al Harrington's kind of coming down the court and they find them for three. So I think it's all kind of related to each other.
Well, what's kind of interesting too is that if you adjust the numbers, if you do for adjusting of strength of schedule and who they play, they're actually 15th in defense and 17th in offense. So if you actually adjust the numbers for, because right now just currently they're 10th in offensive rating, 24th in defensive rating in the NBA. But if you do adjustments, they're actually flipped and they're better on defense. I don't know why that is off the hand, but I think that it's maybe you're right. I just still see that Whitman wants to play. I still think that this is still potentially some. I don't know if he wants to play that type of style personally, but we'll see how it play out. I mean, I think Whitman.
What style do you think he wants to play? What do you mean? And what style do you think Whitman wants to play?
I think he wants to play defense and score win games in the 80s.
Oh no, not at all.
And I don't think he wants
a
to
lot
win
of
games in the
possessions.
hundreds.
I think there are more statistics and stuff driving this team than you realize. That they want to try to get a lot more possessions and that they want to get a lot of three balls up. And so maybe we'll just have to disagree and see where the team falls. I think more. And last year, yeah, the focus is on a good defense, but the offense was just so horrible and unideal that we were kind of not expecting this sort of jump, but this was kind of intended the whole time for either Wall to be pushing it for them to get threes or to run some sort of post offense out of Nene and have him being kind of either passing or scoring big man. So, again, we're only 6 games into it, so let's kind of reconvene maybe after 15 or 20 games, and then we can really start to say, all right, this is a trend, or this might not be a trend. So. So let's give it some time.
This is their identity. I think you're right. I think that they want to shoot a lot of threes and percentages. Going back to the percentages, sometimes I don't know if they tell Ariza where he needs to shoot the three by using stats, but I'll mention that later. We touched on it earlier. Let me get you a screenshot here. Let's see here. Let's get. Let's see here. You see this, guys?
Waiting, not yet.
It's a good. Let's see here. How about now?
There we go.
All right, so
it's
our screenshot. Poland and Brazil. I looked it up. I kind of was curious to see what type of relationship these countries have had. They had diplomatic relations since the 1900s or 1912, and they were kind of cool during the Cold War. So kind of funny. These guys, that picture was taken, I believe, the first day Gortat shows up, and they've been blown out ever since. I mean, after the Nets game, let me just give you real quick. After the Nets game, Nene says that Gortat owes him money for all the assists he gives him, $150. He couldn't. Then he just went off on this whole elaborate, and Nene's very animated, especially with his accent. Gortat was actually gonna get an interview. He was gonna leave, but the media wanted to do both of them. Gortat said, "No, I'll wait. He is older than me. I will sit here." So Gortat actually stood in the locker room and waited, which, if for those that don't know, this is very unprecedented in the NBA locker room. If these guys can get out of an interview, they are gone. They ain't waiting for anyone. I don't care who it is. And guess what? Because if it was reversed, and it was Nene waiting for him, Nene would be so far gone, it wouldn't be close. Gortat sat there and he just got interviewed by a Polish reporter who we took some selfies with afterwards too. I think he loves selfies. He's in a really nice suit, and he's sitting there, and Nene's getting interviewed, and then it's over, and then now Gortat gets interviewed, and he just starts going off about how much he loves Nene and how awesome he is, and this is the tweet that he sent afterwards. Let's get to real quick before we go on. There it is. Do you see that?
Yes. Nene was killing today.
Man, that big boy is immortal. And Brazil.
Nice.
So like I said, they love each other. I think it's been one of my highlights of the season, Kyle. I don't know about you. What do you think?
No, I think it's nice that that there is this friendliness. That Gortat, first of all, he speaks English very well. He kind of has a little bit of personality, and he'll speak his mind sometimes. So you kind of appreciate that he's coming in. He's not just kind of this aloof foreign guy, or even aloof American guy for that matter, and that he is a likable character, and that he and Nene are getting along. And it's an encouraging sign. I mean, because we all know these things matter, and especially since Gortat, he's in a free agent year. And I think the Wizards, by giving away a protected pick, would ideally want to retain some value and kind of keep Gortat for the future at a reasonable rate, because he just turned 29, or he turned 29 last February. He'll turn 30 this coming February. And certainly if the Wizards can get him for another 3 years, that might be too optimistic. I'm sure his agent would want at least 4 years. But if the Wizards can keep him around, I mean, we've seen what he can do. He's just kind of a solid all-around player, and he has some skills that may continue to translate a little bit more as he gets older. So it's nice to see kind of a warm locker room already, even during a tough start. And so we'll see where this relationship goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think the off the court stuff is really kind of neat to see, but actually to see that Gortat and him work well. I mean, there was an incident in Philly where Gortat comes to the high post, Nene goes to the low post, and Wall did like a complete look off to Gortat, bam, awesome pass, and Nene, bucket. Nene's had, I mean, I know he's made some jokes about it, but he's had a bunch of nifty passes to Gortat, who doesn't dribble, who doesn't mess around, finishes at the rim. And I think that especially with Nene's health, we got this one.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite ones from that Philly game where, this is Nene's first game back, and you're like, all right, how healthy he's going to be, and you can just see his impact on the game. Like, the players are afraid he's going to do some crazy pass from the elbow, and then he kind of dupes the defense, takes up a lot of space on that spin move, and then knows the whole time that Gortat's is going to be right there. So it's like, and they've had so many passes like this where it's really just kind of beautiful to watch the chemistry that already exists, and with two just knowledgeable and veteran players. So it's we're only in Game 6. I'm looking forward to seeing a little bit more of this. Fingers crossed, because of Nene all day or day to day all day. But it's nice to see so far.
Cool. We have gone extra too far. That's what editing is all about. I have one more tweet to share. I don't know if you have any. If you have one, I'd like to end on.
Maybe I'll. I don't think we can escape without checking out at least one update from just Kevin
Can,
Seraphin. The
yeah, yeah.
world of.
Can I have a mention of him real quick? I had it down. He was featured on Inside Stuff. I don't know. Did you get a chance to see it
I
yet?
did not. I saw him talking about it on social media.
Oh, you haven't seen the bit yet?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just wanted to share
what
this
is
like
this one? What is this?
this is from his Instagram account. So he's at some fancy hotel computer desk and he's got the graphics to look like he's taking a picture of himself flexing muscles with a team swag. I mean it's just so like he's just such a little kid, and I guess it's right that he doesn't. There's some report on Comcast from Jay Michael the other night. Like Kevin Seraphin's right. He's not like in the club or drinking all the time like Andre Blatch like that. But he's also just such a goofy kid, and it would make all this easier to see if he were playing better. But I feel like I keep saying like Ted Leonsis needs to find like some sort of basketball reaction app to put on his phone and let him try to maybe it's like Lumosity or something like that, and maybe he can develop some sort of instinct on the court. I mean, otherwise, just bless his heart. He's going to be an endless supply of just kind of goof troop type of stuff. So I'm sure you have some good snaky stuff to share as well.
Two things. I'll give him some basketball credit real quick. He had against the Nets. He dunked it twice without dribbling. Got the ball and did a two-handed dunk. I was like, oh my god! And then last night he had an assist, a really nice assist. We'll overlook all the defensive rotations he missed, and some places that he should have been. I was like, wow, these are things that sometimes he struggles with that. No, the Inside Stuff interview, you need to watch. I mean, it's basically they show up at his place in Adams Morgan. He does the whole interview with his skeleton on his couch. So he does the whole interview with the skeleton next to him, and then he sits there and starts flying his like robot like helicopter, and he's like, oh, this is just one of my toys, and then he gets on the seg ball, and Lucky Righty gets on the Segway for a game of seg ball, which I'm like, oh my, I can't believe. Talking about Ted Leonsis, I still can't believe they haven't outlawed seg ball. I mean, it's one thing to ride the Segway around, it's another thing to like try to play some type of games with it. Then they do all these skits of him in the skeleton, and he just kind of talks. And at the end, is this the pass right here? Here we go, Snakey. Look at that.
This is. I mean, it's so looks so mechanical, but he did find Martell Webster for that dunk. I mean, credit Webster for putting himself in the right place. But yeah, bless Snakey's heart.
No, so after it was over and they talked about a snake, they go back to the Inside Stuff, and it's Grant Hill, and I forget the other girl's name. She hosts it, and Grant Hill compares them to his former teammate Mikey Moore, who also hails from the state of Nebraska where I'm from. And I was like, did you just compare? He says he compared him to Mikey Moore. I forget why he compared him, but he's just like a free spirit, and he'd have all this stuff. And then he actually brought up that Mike Miller was his teammate and had a monkey. And I was like, segue to Mike Miller owning a monkey. I'm gonna end on just young love, because I'm all about young love, especially in you I don't know if you've ever been in any long distance relationships, Kyle. They kind of suck. It doesn't matter what age you're at. They're kind of crappy. So we have some young love. Young love right here.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
I remember seeing this.
So this would be Bradley Beal's girlfriend, who goes to Missouri State. She's a basketball player. I think they're the same age. Because I think she might be a sophomore in college. He's a junior. They've spent the whole summer, on Instagram, all sorts of stuff. So this is, hey, I kind of miss you a lot, baby. No, I kind of sort of miss you more. LOL. Just young love. It's just good to see it out there, kind of social media. Young kids. They're who knows what they're doing on with their Snapchats and all that. It's just good to see. Because usually it's like, I miss you more, boo. No, I miss you more, boo. and so there's Bradley Beal, and he's been shooting well, playing well. So there's a lot of love.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a lot more heartwarming than Bradley Bill's tweets of just hungry and two exclamation points, or just the irrelevant stuff he's
Oh,
putting out there. So yeah, good job, Brad. Way to go.
well, I mean, I think uh, my journalism professors would be impressed to have them know that I now follow Instagram account or social media accounts of teenagers in college, uh, and I talk about them online. So cool. Let's see here. Get off of here. All right, dude. You got any partying shots for the week? The 2 games left. Is there anything you'd like to see these last 2 games, real quick?
If they win one of these two games, I think they're still in decent. They're okay, and there's still no reason for panic because you come home, you have Cleveland who kind of struggled and lost against the Bulls tonight. And Cleveland, they're not looking good at all. They're 3-5, 0-5 on the road. Um, so if the Wizards can pull one off and come home 3-6, maybe pick up something against Cleveland on Saturday. Minnesota's coming in town next Tuesday. You just have to pick up these wins little by little. But I'm looking for them to get the win tomorrow in Dallas, but then fall to the Spurs like they usually do in San Antonio. I think it's still been since the 90s or something that they've won in San Antonio, right?
Yeah, 97 or 8.
Yeah, definitely. Like Rod
I,
Strickland was on one of the teams, probably.
yeah, I think they have a shot to win tomorrow. I think that if they're going to get one, they're going to get it tomorrow in Dallas. They have played well in Dallas lately. Last year, if you remember, they kind of I think that was the Gennaro Pargo game where he jacked up a bad shot at the end after Kyrie Martin got hot. A couple years ago, they won the opener there. I think John Wall won his first game there, preseason game. They've played well in Dallas. Monte Ellis is playing well. I don't know. Dirk I think is doing decently. Calderon has given John Wall fits in the past. So Marion's still around. Vince Carter's kind of on his last legs. I mean, it's not like there's something. Dallas is just kind of an average team. I don't think obviously they're not imposing, but this is the Wizards on the road. They looked well last night on the road, so it'll be good to see. What I'm trying to see is I want the bench. I know we just harped on the bench forever. I want to see somebody on the bench step up. I want a 14-point game out of Seraphin. I want to see maybe Booker get in and get 8, 10 rebounds. I want to see somebody contribute other than maybe Al Harrington. I think they just can't count on Al Harrington shooting a bunch of threes and hoping they go down. And there has to be some other contributions. I'd like to see another bench player step up in these next few games.
Last win in San Antonio, December 11th, 1999. Tim Duncan was playing that game, as was for the Wizards Mitch Richmond, Juwan Howard, Rod Strickland, and Ike Austin. So it's been a while. It has been a while.
What was the stats on Rod Strickland that night?
Rod put up 11 points, 7 assists. Mitch Richmond led the way with 31 points. Michael Smith, of all people, kind of one of a random Wizard, put up 10 and 15. And then Tracy Murray dropped 15 off the bench. And that night, Duncan just didn't get enough help from David Robinson or Mario Ely or Avery Johnson, for that matter. So yeah.
Sean Elliott on that team?
No, Sean Elliott was not on that team. Or he didn't play that night.
Steve Smith?
No, you're looking at off the bench. You had little Malik Rose, some Terry Porter, Samaki Walker, Jerome Kersey, and former Georgetown Hoya and Washington Wizard, or Bullet maybe, Jaren Jackson.
Oh wow! So it has been 15 years, huh?
Yeah. Just
15 years. Wow. So Popovich is. I bet he's not. He's probably playing up his game plan right now. He's worried.
Yeah.
All right, man.
All right.
Well, you have any party ways, Kyle?
No. Just so Wizards, do your thing.
All right, cool. Thanks for having us, and hopefully, if you made it to the end of this, you probably hate us by now. So peace out, and I'll talk to you soon.
Later.